Hey, what's happening, everyone? It is I, the man, the myth, the mustache, Tim here with a brand new video for you, and as well as a brand new series, for that matter. Welcome to Season 1, Part 1 of What If My Hero Academia Had a Suicide Squad? Ooh, good topic, isn't it? Well, sit back and relax because this series is gonna be good. Not because I'm recording it, but it is actually really well done. So sit back and relax because you will be in for a treat. With that out of the way, let's get this story going, shall we? Tartarus. In Greek mythology, it was the prison for the wicked, and those who would challenge the gods, the ones known as the Titans. A dark abyss filled with the endless suffering, a living hell to all who call it home. Well, to all but one, for it was the prison itself that was, and is, its own warden. In Japan, however, Tartarus is known as the prison that houses only the most dangerous of supervillains in this era. In a world where over 80% of the population have powers, better known as quirks. Not all are benevolent enough to use them to help their fellow man. Those that are deemed B to S class, according to the Hero Public Safety Commission villainy rankings, will find themselves within its hellish constraints and hallowed halls. It is here in a dark room, deep within the prison's walls. Two figures silently gazed at the various monitors that lit up the area in a green glow. Team 1, come in. What is your status? The first figure spoke. They were the assistant to the second, who was currently in the large ambassador-style chair with their gray-gloved hands interlaced and hovering just in front of their lower lip. The monitor that the two figures were transfixed upon had just gone static for 25 seconds. 26, 27, 28. Exless, respond now. Sit rep! The voice was female in her late 20s to early 30s. She was as tall as she was beautiful, built from solid lean muscle under a uniform that hugged every part of her truly elegant frame. She was the vixen that every man and woman wanted to be with, or in most cases, imitate. Her voice was a seductively baritone mix that paired perfectly with someone who was just feeling the effects of long-term smoking. If there was ever a woman that she could be compared to, it would be a young Kate McGrew from Star Trek Voyager. Her shoulder-length blue, almost purple hair with hot pink highlights only played to the dark violet eyes that were now narrowed in complete annoyance. Exless was once again proving to be useless. Inconveniences aside, the uniform she wore had a stab-resistant neck guard with 2 columns of clasps that ended at the right shoulder, holding the almost robe-like uniform up and in place. It was dark blue, short-sleeved with red cuffs around the biceps. Along her waist was a utility belt with places for her cuffs at the small of her back. A sidearm with extra ammo on one side of it, along with Mark 9 Dragon pepper spray in its own holster. At her other hip was a nightstick and taser. Her robe had slits on either side of it, revealing the cargo pants underneath, along with the black combat boots that zipped up on the inner side. Suddenly, the two heard a raspy chuckle, followed by wheezing, then coughing, as new audio trickled in. The second figure pointed towards the far right monitor. On it were the vital signs and mugshots of Team 1. There were also audio waves just below each of the mugshots' vitals. They were meant to record the voice of each team member for the log. Right now, one of them was spiking from its owner's laughter. Exless is feeling. The voice let out a ragged chuckle. Less than talkative right now. The audio then rang out a sharp slice, as the audio sounds of ripping and the breaking of human flesh, immediately followed by the gurgling sounds of someone being cut off from speaking, and drowning. The sound of liquid splashing against an object seemed to echo throughout the dark room that the two figures were in. They continued to listen as someone's vitals were now dropping. Figure 1 gritted her teeth. Exless was just terminated. His profile picture went gray as his vitals flatlined, followed by the monotone sound of a single beep. Axer, do yourself a favor and use your axe quirk to chop your own head off now. Now more annoyed than ever. She spoke through gritted teeth. Even though they were going to fire Exless after this mission, he served his 3 missions that were given to him. However, to say that they were successful ones, that was a matter of perspective. He would have been rewarded accordingly, and then promptly forgotten. This, however, for the lack of a better scenario, was best suited for all parties involved. "I've had it with your games, Nagant. Aye, sir!" The second figure simply snapped his fingers, and Axer was cut off by a loud explosive splat, followed by several more mixed with screams of horror. The second figure said nothing, as the monitor then reset, revealing the horror that had befallen Team 1. They had murdered their own commanding officer. There would be no compromise. "Prep Team 3 to finish the mission." With an annoyed sigh, the second figure's voice revealed itself to be male, late 40s to maybe early 50s. It was gruff. He was the end result of long-term smoking. A red phone rang from the bottom drawer of the desk he was sitting behind. He gave another heavy sigh. Now was not the time for this. With so much work that was now flushed down the proverbial latrine, he rubbed his temples, feeling the beginnings of a migraine coming on, as big as the prefecture he was in. "And that would be CD. Satsumi, send a cleaning crew as well and find a way to explain that fool's death." He then gave pause, raising his hands, belaying his last order. "No, scratch that. Let the commission sort it out." The figure then reached for the box of expensive cigars to the right side of the desk. They were just above the 3 drawers, the bottom of which was steadily ringing. He opened the box, pulling out an Aston Eclipse cigar. Freeing it from its protective black tube, he then reached for the guillotine-style cutter that was in the cigar box as well. Taking an annoyed breath, he sliced the end of the cigar, followed by the tip, before carefully replacing the cutter back within the box. Lady Nagant was ready with a lit match for him. A few puffs later, it was now steadily burning as he then took a deep drag, savoring every last bit of the burning opulent tobacco. With a flick of her wrist, she put out the match before speaking. "Anything else, sir?" Before we get back to the video, I'd like to talk about our new channel, Celestia, our channel dedicated to all things Dungeons & Dragons. Currently, we have a series breaking down the different spells in D&D, and soon we'll be starting some new series as well. So if you're a fan of D&D or have an interest in learning about it, check it out. Be sure to roll a d20 for initiative first. Additionally, if there is something you've always wanted to see get made into a video, head on over there and leave a comment mentioning it. Now let's get back to the video, shall we? The man closed his emerald green eyes without looking at his assistant. He then took another deep drag, holding it in for as long as he could. This tall Goliath of a man was built just as solid as Japan's #1 hero, Endeavor, on a good day. The uniform he wore was a cross between a science fiction starship admiral with a jacket clasping along the right side of his neck guard, down to his right breast, and your typical prison guard uniform, black cargo pants, and all that sort of thing. He steadied himself, then spoke as he released the inhaled smoke. "Yes, tell Team 3's commander if he survives, he'll get another bonus." From there, he then groaned, staring at what would only exacerbate his oncoming migraine, slowly delaying the inevitable as much as he could. He reached down to the bottom drawer and pulled it out, setting the source of his migraine atop his desk. He stared at the red phone for another moment, willing the blasted thing to cease its annoying call. "As you wish, Warden." The Warden then dismissed his assistant, leaving him alone with the red phone and glowing monitors that lit up his office. He took another breath, bracing for impact as it were, and answered the phone. The voice that greeted him came with the kindest and most benevolent of yells. This was the Commission Director, or who the Warden lovingly called CD. What the hell was that? This was gonna go so well. "Good afternoon to you too, Director." The Director did not even bother with the pleasantries. This served only to annoy the Warden and worsen his already growing migraine. A genuine lack of manners was considered extremely rude and unprofessional to the Warden. Alas, however, This was his paycheck talking. So, like it or not, he had to endure this fool's uncouth behavior. Exless. The warden then cut him off. Was as useful as tits on a frog. He smiled to himself and was quite pleased with his clapback. If his paycheck wanted to be uncivilized, so would he. The director, on the other hand, was not a fan of the analogy. As true as that may be, a hero was just terminated. A person. The man could not bring himself to say the word. Murdered. Who wouldn't care how he's remembered? For you see, the dead, they're incapable of it. The warden's view of people was not akin to that of most. To him, they were only seen as fodder. Nothing more, nothing less. Exless was terrible fodder, and would only be referred to as such. The fool knew what he signed up for, all the risks involved, along with the potential payout for sticking with it. The massive Goliath did not twist the fool's arm to take the offer. As such, the director would just have to deal with it and sod off. Excuse you? The warden blew his cigar smoke from out of his nostrils. He was growing weary of CD as he cut him off again. No, excuse you. His voice went off like a steel trap. I still have a job to do. Exless was useless as both a hero and as Team 1's commander. If anything, you, my dear director, are solely to blame for the inadequacy of the product you sent to lead this vital mission. The warden rubbed his temples with his free hand, his cigar cradled between his pointer and middle fingers. Though his emotions were running high, he kept them in check. He firmly kept adding pressure to his delicate vice in between them. He then took a soothing drag from the nectar that was his cigar. Is that what you see this as? The director was livid at the warden's words. That's what you saw that man as? A defective product? Defective would not even begin to describe the idiocy that was Exless. Because of his demise, the warden was forced to terminate 4 potential profit makers. CD cost the ruler of Tartarus millions upon millions of pure unadulterated profit. You give him too much credit, where none is required. The protocols are in place for a reason. This is the result of failing to adhere to them. Disregarding his words, the director was not hearing this. To him, his employee was mad with power and needed to be reminded of his place. Do you realize what your idiot cost me? You put bombs inside their heads. That was the other thing that bothered him. Are you insane? The warden told him of the protocols that would be in place. He thought he was joking. Hearing that his outburst ignored, the warden regained his composure before speaking. No, quite the opposite, actually. I am the most sane one in this conversation. You are working with villains, serial killers, rapists, mobsters, and monsters. Do you seriously think I should not put something in place to cull these creatures? For they are surely not human. Bad Company is a rehabilitation program to curb their abilities. The warden had enough of the director's misdirection and conversational gymnastics. Cut the bullshit, CD. Bad Company is a Black Ops initiative. He had had enough of this false sense of civility. Formed to use these animals' killers' instincts to keep the worst ones from banging at our doors. And you've turned it into a suicide squad. Time off their sentences? The director shed the last fabric of any decency he had left. You don't think they don't smell the bullshit a mile off? Hope, for all its intents and purposes, tended to garner the best results from anybody, be they hero or villain. It was the most powerful motivator anyone could muster, or, in the warden's case, manipulate for his greater good. A good tool is a properly motivated one, he calmly said, finishing up his cigar. It's not a lie. It's just no one has ever made it past their 3rd mission. And no one ever will. Even the director was not falling for the snake oil the warden was selling. I fail to see how it's not a win-win. Remember, you came to me with a Gigantomachia problem, and I've delivered with gusto. Oh, you have. Cervantes, Jawline, Bloody Mary, You've delivered nothing but bodies to be living sacrifices." The warden just rolled his eyes as he struggled not to just hang up on this fool. Every one of those villains were a lifer without the possibility of parole. Their deaths just meant that Tartarus had vacancies, and there were many, many, many rooms to fill within the prison. "I've also delivered Tokyo, Osaka, Musatafu, and Kyoto from evil. All those cities spared from that monster's ire. I have saved lives, all at the cost of that evil being sacrificed on that altar." But sacrifices can call forth an even greater evil, even more so if the sacrifice is also just as or more evil. The warden had a point, he had to admit. Despite his methods, he indeed saved countless lives. However, the paperwork afterwards brought the director to his knees. In truth, he was no better than the warden, hiding behind his own self-righteous BS. The warden knew this and passively dug into his flaw. "Yeah, and I have dinner at 1700 hours with the boogeyman and his missus, La Llorona. Hopefully, I can get her to stop drowning her damn kids so they can start a family, finally." The quip caught a chuckle from the director. It was brief, but it was funny. The director then quickly snapped back to the matter at hand. "You jest, but I am quite serious. So what do I tell the public about Exless? What do I tell his family? His son? His wife?" Now this was a complete waste of the warden's time. Time better served prepping the next batch of inmates for Team 1. Lady Nagant had briefly stepped back in his office, dropping off several photos of potential candidates along with their dossiers. He nodded his head in approval once again, dismissing his assistant. She gave him a curt nod and left to her other duties. "The usual spiel first off to the public, about heroic duty, bravery, blah blah blah, I don't know and I don't care. Do a puff piece on his worthless ass. Kami knows he was active on YT Shorts, Sparrow, and Shortform. A regular social media dolt. Secondly, as for his family, ex-wife and the son could not give a rat's dingleberry about him. I know, because he cried about it after every mission. Every mission. Every single goddamn one of them." The commission director was stunned in silence at the coldness and lack of empathy for the low-ranking hero. He only joined bad company for his son. The warden was right about the son being estranged, though son was a very open statement. They were transitioning, and Exless was trying to gather the funds to provide his child with what they desired. Bad company was going to fund the whole thing once he completed his 3rd mission. No tricks or falsehoods. 3 missions, and he was funded. Now, the warden did not have to fund a goddamn thing. Win-win in his eyes. The funds would be funneled right back into their budget. A few more moments pass, and the warden was done. "If that is all there is, then I will draw this conversation to a close. Your problem is still out there, and I have to form another team." He was shuffling through the photos. He had to admit, Lady Nagant had taste, especially with this batch. A small team. 6, including whoever the director was going to send over this time. Just the mere thought of it began to conjure up another dull headache that would be quickly escalating. "Hawks will be there within the hour. There's your new commanding officer." The commission's director then hung up abruptly, much to the relief of the warden. If it wasn't for the nigh unlimited budget he got from the Hero Public Safety Commission, he would have long since told the director to go fuck himself sideways. "So the Hero Public Safety Commission's own lapdog, well, Parrot, is coming to see me. This should be fun." He looked down at the dossier. He had chosen his new Team 1. Though, one of them was going to need a helping hand. 2, in fact. And that's the video for today, so thank you all for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I go, there's a little bit of housekeeping I want to go over with you all. First, if you are in the mood for some more great storytelling, then We the Celestials has got you covered. Our We the Celestials My Hero Academia and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I want to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production.
Give some love to the writer and the editors because they do a lot of amazing work. Their details can be found in the description below. Finally, if you're interested in what we do here with the Celestials, then I'm going to extend an invitation to join our team. We only have one caveat: you must be 16 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. And that's it for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have an amazing day. And as always, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others, and stay awesome. This has been Tim, Mustache out.